Welcome to the Master Your Money podcast, where we break down financial literacy into clear, actionable steps you can actually use. I'm your host, M.O.N.E.Y Jackson, financial coach, speaker, and founder of Virtue's Financial Solutions. Each week, I'll share practical strategies to help you manage money, master credit, and build wealth with confidence. Whether you're paying off debt, saving for your first home, or growing your business, this podcast is here to help guide you on your journey to financial freedom. So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's master your money together. Well, today is the very first episode of the Master Your Money podcast, and I am so glad that you joined today. First, I wanted to welcome you and also just to share with you my personal money journey. Now, when I began learning about money, it actually did start as a child. My mother, she worked in banking in New York for years. Her and my dad were married, they divorced. So when I began kind of understanding or observing things about how my mom ran her household, I was a child. So I knew mom and dad were together. Mom and dad were married. And then one day, dad wasn't there and mom had to work. She worked hard. She had 2 jobs a lot of times, and just taking care of my two sisters and I. And I noticed, she would, go to work hard, come home, buy groceries, things like that. So things such as paying the bills, managing checkbook, I saw those things my mother did with my personal financial journey. Also, my mother taught us to make sure that we honor God with our finances first, that no matter, when I got my first job, she always told my sisters and I to make sure that we are giving our tithes. We knew tithing 10%, but that for me was, I would say the end of my at-home learning journey. I went to college. My first year, I had got enough, I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied, but I got enough scholarships to cover what my financial aid did not cover. In my second, third, and fourth year of college, I essentially got student loans to make up the difference that was not covered by financial aid. And I also had a work-study job. Growing up, my mom, I didn't really hear her talk a lot about credit cards or debt. She's a homeowner, so she was paying her mortgage. But as far as people being in credit card debt, buying tons of cars and things of that nature, that was not my mother's story. When I graduated college, I did some traveling and things of that nature, some volunteering. When I got back to the United States, my thought process was I need to begin paying off these student loans. I don't want these loans hanging over my head the rest of my life. I paid off some student loans pretty quickly, the smaller dollar amounts, but the bigger dollar amounts, I knew that was going to take some time to pay those off. So fast forward many years, and just years of working, and my pastor, who's also my spiritual father, Apostle Kenneth Law, I remember one Sunday night he called and told me about a workshop that he was hosting at the church, and he did not want any of his spiritual daughters to be struggling financially. He said it was powerful information, and the young lady that presented information about credit, repairing credit. Those are things that I didn't really know about. I had by this point had purchased a home, had been living in my home, and just essentially I did whatever my realtor told me to do in order to buy my home. And had I known then what I know now about finances, about credit, I definitely would have made some different choices. But I, of course, did the best that I can, did what I knew to do, which is follow the instructions I was given so I can get the end result, which was a home. So the young lady, her name was Danikia. She, she presented great information about credit, and I immediately signed up that night to begin helping people to to restore their credit or build their credit. Learned a lot, and for myself personally, as I said, I didn't know what I didn't know about finances. I had been in a car accident a few years prior to attending this financial workshop. And then when I personally went through the process, because I truly believe that you must be a partaker of the fruit. You must be the first partaker of whatever you are selling. So if you're selling makeup, cars, any type of nutritional drinks, things of that nature, you need to be using the product or service. So in that process of me using the financial services, I was able to boost my credit score, personal credit score, to over 800 over time. Also, I was able to get some items removed from my credit report, such as the car accident I mentioned that I was in. I paid off the bill, but what I didn't know is although I paid off the debt, that the negative or the non-payments, the late payments were still on my credit report. So with seeing my success in repairing my personal credit, I also assisted my mother and several others, like friends, church members, other family members, and just other people I knew, and also just people who were referred to me to repair their credit, and they got great results. Some were purchasing cars and homes, and were able to get great results. The company I was working with during the pandemic, they had to shut down for a while, and for me, one of the biggest heartbreaks when I was assisting people with building their credit, there were other services that the company provided, but most people, they just took advantage of that one service, and then when they got their desired credit score, they canceled their services. And the big thing too for me was in speaking with people, some people loved, or they really wanted the services I provided, but they could not afford to invest in themselves to have those services. So I decided to become a financial coach, because sometimes it's not credit that's the issue. It's the basic things like balancing your household budget so that you can afford the things that you want and need to get you where you want to go. And I started my business, Virtue Financial Solutions, in 2021. And the reason I call my business Virtue Financial Solutions is because we want to, as Christians, be men and women of virtue. We want to be honorable with our finances. We want to not be people who are, what some older people would say, I don't know how many people still say it, but robbing Peter to pay Paul, meaning that you have money maybe in one account for one set purpose, but you have to transfer money from that account to make sure you're covering other expenses. And that can be exhausting. And I've personally have had some times in my life where I've had to do that as well. And I was like, no, we need to make sure as believers, followers of Jesus Christ, that we are using God's principles, the kingdom principles that He talks about in the Bible with how we should handle our money. And the first is the things such as tithing. I started this podcast for several reasons. Number one, to get the word out to more people about their finances and also following kingdom principles from the Bible to manage their finances. My pastor, my spiritual father, a few months ago, we were having a book signing at our church for, to promote one of his books. And I just brought a book to be signed, and he told me, you need a podcast. You need to start a podcast. And I asked a question or two because there were other people in line. So out of respect, I just took to heart what he said. And also, I recently spoke at an event called Boss Brunch, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Great speakers, great networking, and one of the presenters who shared the floor with me, not together, but he was one of the presenters. After the brunch, he told me, as I was listening to you speak, the only thing I was thinking is she needs a podcast. She needs a podcast. So my personal desire, of course, but then also just two people who are podcasters letting me know that I do need a podcast to share important financial literacy information with others. So the reason this podcast is called the Master Your Money podcast, it is a trademark framework that I use with my clients, my financial coaching clients, where they learn to manage their finances, the importance of organizing their finances, navigating through their expenses and everything that's going on in their personal life plus financial life. And then also when they're educating themselves on finances, it actually yields great results. I have had some great clients who have used that I've worked with, and we've walked through this framework where they were able to save over $7,000 in a very short time with us working together towards her dream of becoming a homeowner. And she's still following the principles that she learned from our coaching sessions. And I had another client who her goal wasn't home ownership, but she really wanted to get a great handle on her finances for her family. So we learned about the mindset, about finances, and how sometimes we can be pretty impulsive and we don't know it. For some people, their vice may be going to the grocery store, some designer handbags, shoes, you name it. But it was great working with both of those clients. Those two clients that I just mentioned, just giving their brief testimonials. But what you'll gain from tuning in to the Master Your Money podcast is you're going to get some practical tips. I know a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have enough money to manage my money or manage my budget or build a budget. I have to wait until I get more money to do that. And that's absolutely not true. You want to learn how to manage whatever amount of money you have. I had a great mentor once who said, a lot of people are afraid of money, but as you accumulate more resources, you're just adding zeros. So how you manage $1 versus how you manage 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 or more, the principles shouldn't change. So that is something that's very important with making sure you master your money. Also, it's an opportunity for people to learn more about, get some aha moments. Like maybe the way I'm thinking about money is determined by the way I grew up. Like I told you, I did not grow up all of my childhood in a two-parent household. So my thoughts of money based on my upbringing may be different than someone who was raised in a home with both parents. Both parents were working, or perhaps one was working, one was not. Everyone has different dynamics that impact and influence their mindset towards money, and then also how they personally handle money. But we can definitely, as the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of our mind about money. So that's something important. But I definitely want to, before I leave, want to ask you to subscribe and also share this with a friend that you think may be interested in learning more about managing and mastering their money, no matter what stage they are. I've ran across so many people, near and far, I'll say, that when I let them know that I'm a financial coach, that I help people with their personal finances, which of course can unlock the door to getting your business credit and things of that nature. I've been told like so many people need this, and I've been asked over the past few weeks, like, do you have anything available for young adults or for teenagers? And again, as I said, your personal upbringing can definitely impact your decisions about money. And I'm passionate about this because I'm teaching what I wish someone would have taught me. And as I said earlier, sometimes we don't know what we don't know about finances. And there's some simple things that we can do to make sure that we are setting ourselves up, but also our children up for success financially and helping to build a great legacy. So that's all for today for our Master Your Money podcast. But I wanted to thank you so much for tuning in today to the Master Your Money podcast. If today's episode has helped you, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new lesson on mastering your money. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a review and share this podcast with a friend who's ready to build financial freedom too. And if you're ready to take the next step, visit me at virtuefinancialsolutions.org to learn more about my coaching programs, upcoming workshops, and resources to help you on your financial journey. Until next time, remember, you don't just manage money, you master it. This is M.O.N.E.Y signing off.